Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Ray Smith. I am honored to be the lead counsel for Georgia's for the President of the United States, Donald
Mr.
J.
Smith,
Trump.
I tell you, it might be better if you stood at the witness stand
Okay.
right behind us, if that's
Sure.
okay.
No problem.
Yeah, what number is that? Podium. All right,
Are we on?
we're on.
Okay. Good afternoon again. My name is Ray Smith. I am honored to be the lead counsel in Georgia for Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for hearing us today to consider the issues, problems, concerns, irregularities, violations of the law, potential fraud in the November 3rd, 2020 election in the state of Georgia. This hearing is the tip of the iceberg. We are filing today a petition in the Fulton Superior Court contesting the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. Because of the documented results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia, because, the irregularities and the abject failure of the Secretary of State of this state and the counties to properly conduct of the election, it is impossible to certify the results of the 2020 presidential election. Normally, in an election contest under Georgia law, the remedy is a new election. That would certainly be possible remedy in the instance, and we are asking the court to order a new election. However, because the presidential election is actually a delegation of your constitutional duties as a legislature, you as a Georgia legislature are the body that is to choose the presidential electors. As you're aware, the United States Constitution states, quote, "Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the number the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in Congress." And in Georgia, of course, that's 16. The United States Constitution, Article 2, Section 1. The Georgia legislature has established the election code for the state of Georgia, specifying the time, place, and manner of conducting federal elections, including the 2020 presidential election. But when, as here, the election code was ignored and wholly disregarded, the legislature cannot rely on the results of that flawed process. Congress has provided for that eventuality. Title 3 of the United States Code, Section 2, provides, whenever any state has held an election for the purpose of choosing electors and has failed to make a choice on the day prescribed by law, the electors may be appointed on a subsequent day in such a manner as the legislature of such state may direct, end of quote. In other words, because the November 3rd, 2020 general election was so fraught with error, violations of law, lack of uniformity across the state, it is the legislature that must choose the presidential electors, exactly as specified in the United States Constitution, federal law, and the Georgia Constitution of the state. Our election contest petition that we are filing today cites multiple violations of the election code of the state, several of which by themselves would reverse the outcome of this election. The margin of ostensible victory for former Vice President Biden is approximately 12,500 ballots. I say approximately because the margin has changed several times and is likely change again as a result of the current ongoing statutory recount. But we do know that the margin is less than 0.5% of the millions of votes cast in the presidential election in Georgia this year. What we are presenting to the court and to you today as the Georgia legislature are facts. 2,506 felons voted illegally in Georgia. 66,248 underage and therefore ineligible people to illegally register to vote before their 17th birthday, when the law requires 17 and a half years old. At least 2,423 individuals to vote who were not listed as registered. 1,043 individuals to cast ballots who had illegally registered to vote using a post office box. 4,926 individuals voted in Georgia who had registered to vote after their Georgia voter registration date, thereby canceling their Georgia voter registration. 10,315 or more individuals to vote who are deceased by the time of the election. 395 individuals to vote in Georgia who had cast ballots in another state, which is illegal in both states. 15,700 individuals to vote in Georgia who had filed a national change of address with the United States Postal Service prior to November 3rd, 2020. 40,279 individuals to vote who had moved across county lines at least 30 days prior to Election Day and who had failed to properly re-register to vote in their new county after moving, also in violation of Georgia law. The petition for contest will include affidavits of more than 100 Georgia voters sworn under penalty of perjury, attesting to and confirming multiple violations of the Georgia Election Code. You will hear from several of those witnesses today. And then we have the issue of outright lies and potential fraud. The actual results of legal ballots cast in the November 3rd, 2020 election in compliance with the Georgia Election Code cannot be known ever. Not by the Secretary of State, not by the governor downstairs, not by the voting public, and not by this Georgia legislature. That is why the election must be vacated and cannot be allowed to stand. And that is why the Georgia legislature must exercise and fulfill its duties under the United States Constitution, the Georgia Constitution, and Georgia law. The Georgia legislature must appoint the presidential electors to meet on December 14th, 2020. That is your duty to the people of Georgia and to the United States. You must determine the presidential electors. Now I'd like to introduce Jackie Pick, who is going to introduce our video and is going to narrate the video that we have to show to the committee, please.
Ma'am, I need for you to go to the podium.
And Ms. Pick is an attorney as well. Thank you.
If you would tell us your name and your position, please.
So I'm Jackie Pick, and I'm here as a volunteer. I am a lawyer, but I'm not acting as a lawyer in this case. I'm just helping out the legal team here. And going to explain to you the evidence that we have from State Farm Arena here in Fulton County, which goes to what Ray was talking about in terms of fraud or misrepresentation. So when that cues, okay. So it's going to be tough because I'm going to have to depart from the microphone and point out some things at times. You're looking at one big room here. This is where, according to our witnesses who give us sworn affidavits, this is where the absentee ballots and military ballots are being tabulated on Election Day. So we have the tape from first thing in the morning all the way past the close of the polls. What you have is essentially two Republican field organizers who were sent here to be observers. At no time were they actually permitted to observe in a meaningful way. I'm sorry, I have a voice issue today. They are roped off with the press on the side. See if I can show you. Keep your eyes right here. Okay.
Tell you what you could do to help us out so that everyone can hear who's live streaming. If you would tell us what you're going to point to and then go point to it.
Okay.
All right.
So now what will happen is these frames can move around. So this can get a little confusing, but I'll make sure to make it clear. We have two observers there that are going to show up, not at this point, this is in the morning, as you can see the daylight. They're going to get there at about 8 o'clock to watch the tabulation of absentee and military ballots. But according to their affidavits, at about 10 o'clock, there was one person working the polls who told everyone in the room to leave on the basis they were going to stop counting and return at 8:30 in the morning. So if I can get the frame for approximately 10 o'clock or 10:20-ish.
10 p.m.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll have to come back to the morning for a different reason in just a second. Okay, so you can see what time it is. So we're at about 10 o'clock. And what you'll notice is that the workers are present, working, and you have, back in that corner I pointed out to you, the press and the Republican observers. So according to the witnesses, the Republican observers, there is a lady who has blonde braids who comes out to announce we're going to stop counting. Everyone go home. And in fact, we see that. What happens is everyone clears out, including the Republican observers and the press, but 4 people stay behind and continue counting and tabulating well into the night from that point, which is going to be about 10:25 when they all clear out, or 10:30. And they will continue counting unobserved, unsupervised, not in public view, as your statute requires, until about 1 in the morning. The reason we know this is because when our Republican observers were forced to leave, they went to the Central Tabulation Center and they got word from a news crew that in fact counting had continued. They have information that not everybody left according to plan, and some people stayed behind. So this shocked them, so they returned back to State Farm Arena at about 1 o'clock in the morning, where they confirmed that in fact people had just left State Farm Arena in contravention of what they had been told by the supervisors who are running this operation. So, okay, we're still at about 10 o'clock. Can you take us to about 10:25 so we can see the change? You're going to watch this place be busy and filled up to emptied at some time between 10:25 and 10:35, which is consistent with what the affidavits say. Okay, so 10:25, they're still there. Let's go to 10:35. It takes it just a few minutes for the frames to actually catch up with there you go, with the time that you're seeing. So here you see it's all cleared out. We just went from 10:25 to 10:37. The place is a ghost town. This is where the people were vacated and told, go home, come back at 8:30. We will now stop working and stop counting. But notice who stays behind. You have 4 people, consistent with our affidavits, who stayed behind. And so you'll see the lady in purple. You'll see 2 women in yellow in the back, which is where the scanners are there at the top right frame. And then the lady with the blonde braids also, who told everyone to leave. Those are the 4 people who will stay behind. Those 2. Okay. Observer's still there. So the Republican observers said they were the last people to leave State Farm Arena, along with the Fox News crew, accepting those 4 people. So what you're going to see, look at the ladies in yellow. You'll see that they will begin just sitting still, doing nothing, ostensibly not working, because after all, they said they're going to stop counting. They will wait until the witnesses over there in that roped off area, the press and the observers, leave the room. Then you'll see them move into action and begin scanning ballots. Okay, so I think what we can do now is fast forward to about 11. Do you see them? Yeah. Okay, there they walk. They're walking off. But the ladies in yellow are still there. Yes, keep your eyes on the lady in purple and the two in yellow and the woman in the blue apron with blonde braids, because those are the people who stay behind. Okay, so what you're going to see happen at about 11 o'clock is, once everyone is gone, coast is clear, they are going to pull ballots out from underneath a table. Watch this table. So actually this will take a few minutes, but we did not know when we first watched this, okay, is it normal to store suitcases of ballots under a table, under a tablecloth? Is that how they run the place? Maybe this is what they've been doing all day. Maybe this is what they're doing under all the tables. So we went back and watched the video. It was a team of us. We don't see that. What we see is typically you're going to find ballots, back in this corner, or coming in through a door, and then they get moved and circulated throughout the room. And it can get a little confusing because they have these black containers of ballots. They have the U.S. Postal Service containers. But what we were trying to do when we determined that there were ballots being pulled out from underneath this table is, what was the chain of custody? Where did they come from? Who put them there? When did they put them there? We only reviewed this at about 1 a.m. last night for a couple of hours, so we're going to need about 14 hours to watch it carefully because we fast-forwarded through it several times and could not find that particular frame, but here's what we can tell you for sure.